Welcome to the McAfee Center Stage webinar series. My name is Nick, and I will be your host. This webinar is a brief overview covering common use cases and scenarios regarding this topic. It is not intended to be all-encompassing. If assistance is needed, please contact McAfee Technical Support. Our presenters today are Mark Boltz-Robinson and Kyle Wood. Mark has over 25 years of information technology experience. He has familiarity with McAfee EPO, Envision, ATD, and GTI, and the integration of all those within the framework of the threat defense lifecycle. Kyle has been with McAfee over 4 years and is currently a technical practice manager leading a team of consultants who deliver engagements for McAfee customers. Kyle also supports McAfee products during incident responses. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark and Kyle.
Thanks, Nick. Today's agenda, we'll be talking a little bit about McAfee's Advanced Cyber Threat Services, some background information. We'll talk about some of the regions, verticals, and the business impacts of incidents we've seen in the last 6+ months. We'll talk about McAfee's Incident Response Services, the types of attacks that we're seeing, common mistakes, and our approach during incident management. We'll talk about some use cases, tips, and tricks, things we've learned over the years in doing incident response work that can help you benefit from preventing incidents in the first place. We'll look at a brief customer case study. We'll talk about McAfee's incident response offerings. Now we'll talk a bit about the background of McAfee Advanced Cyber Threat Services, or McAfee ACTS. McAfee Advanced Cyber Threat Services, or McAfee ACTS, was formerly known as McAfee Foundstone. We're industry-certified experts that have experience in information security and strategic consulting. We provide vendor-agnostic services to McAfee and non-McAfee clients alike. Our approaches are standards-driven, from ISO 27001 to various NIST policies and frameworks, other various industry standards, and governance assessments. McAfee Advanced Cyber Threat Services provides consultative services in advisory capacity, such as our virtual CISO offering, staff augmentation, maturity assessments, and cybersecurity maturity level assessments. We provide a wide range of governance and compliance consulting services as well, including PCI DSS, or the Payment Card Industry Data Security Services Standard, the ISO 27001 standards, and various other regulatory frameworks. We have a team that provides offensive application security and proactive services, including penetration testing, web application security, vulnerability assessments, strategic assessments, and architecture, server, and systems reviews. We also have a team that provides defensive, digital forensics and incident response and reactive services. These include emergency incident response, information response retainers, planning, assessment, and threat hunting and development, incident management, forensics, configuration reviews, security operations center program development, gap assessments of all kinds, tabletops and workshops to test your team's skills and abilities, and malware reverse engineering. And finally, we offer a wide range of training programs, 4-day courses in incident response, malware analysis, penetration testing, security operations, and other topics. Let's start to take a look at incident response in particular. In the last 12 months, our team has worked across the globe in the Americas, Europe, Middle East and Africa, and Asia Pacific. We have a follow-the-sun model for incident response, supporting operations at a global scale. Industry verticals that we've assisted with incidents in the last year include government, service providers, financial services, healthcare, and manufacturing. For those 12 months, the business impact of incidents that the McAfee Advanced Cyber Threat Services team has assisted with has been substantial. Our quick response time has helped clients reduce the overall average cost to their incident. Incidents can be very expensive, the average cost of a breach being estimated at the order of $3.86 million. It's important for the timeline of an incident to understand the environment, to quickly determine the type of infection, to mitigate the risks and reduce the impact of the incident, and ultimately to find a root cause so that lessons learned can be carried forward to help improve security for future incidents. Now let's take a look at who gets affected by incidents the most. McAfee's Advanced Cyber Threat Services Incident Response Team has noticed that there are some commonalities among the types of organizations that have been affected by incidents in the last 6+ months. The adversaries are using PowerShell utilities such as PowerSploit and PowerShell Empire, as well as utility services like PSExec and other components of the sysinternal suite. Environmental access was gained either directly through an initial spearfish or phishing email, or alternatively through the service provider or other IT outsourcing environments connected to the organization's networks. Many of these cases or incidents have involved malware components, including an initial start with banking trojans of some form, such as Emotet, Dridex, or TrickBot, or some combination thereof, with the incident culminating in a ransomware event at the end, encrypting all the data and rendering the environment completely shut down. What are some of the reasons why incidents are as successful as they are today? Common mistakes that organizations have made across verticals in the last 6+ months of incidents that we've seen include patching, or rather a lack of patching and a lack of patch management across systems, keeping things up to date, legacy systems still remaining within the environment, including older versions of Windows Server as well as Windows endpoints, a lack of focused or regular scans by the endpoint protection suites to look for threats within the environment, outdated signatures in those endpoint protections, a lack of understanding of the overall infrastructure and a holistic view of the environment, a lack of skill sets within the teams that need to manage security within the organization, a lack of an incident response plan, or a lack of understanding of the organization's overall cybersecurity maturity. Now let's look at how the McAfee ACTS Incident Response Team has helped organizations manage incident response. The McAfee ACTS methodology for incident response starts with the ability to respond and assess the situation. Our teams respond immediately to the incident and evaluate how to maximize the current tool sets and processes that the organization already has available. We then look to contain the situation, developing a containment strategy for identifying the critical assets or systems that are under attack, and to develop a recovery plan. During the course of all of this, we preserve and analyze systems, preserving critical assets, log data, and other information that allows us to analyze the root cause of the incident to prevent a future recurrence. We then look to remediate, taking the necessary steps to identify, investigate, and actually remediate the incident. Then we provide a detailed report with insights and recommendations, including the lessons learned to prevent future breaches. Our approach to incident handling involves a 9-step process. First, we look for a holistic view of the security posture and scope to determine the affected systems, networks, and forensics reconstruction and timelining. 2, we provide ongoing incident management and C-level briefings and oversight, offering insights and viewpoints to help the organization make key decisions during and through the incident response process. Third, we ensure that available tools and personnel are deployed so that the threat is eliminated in a timely manner. Fourth, we perform data analysis in an ongoing iterative approach that looks to analyze the malware behavior, the purpose, the features, the means of propagation, the sophistication of the threat actor involved, the scope of the compromise, and then performing data analysis on the detection methods and other factors that provide insight to allow us to better contain and remediate the incident. Continuing on our approach to incident management in our 9-step process, fifth, we operationalize an industry best practices chain of custody process, including forensically sound gathering, labeling, sealing, and documenting of evidence. 6, we determine the technical root causes for the incident to identify the most appropriate tactical and/or strategic course of action to prevent future recurrence and to strengthen your organizational security posture. 7th, we provide specific tools and direction to mitigate the existing threat, whether these are tool sets that the organization already has in-house and how they can improve their use, or additional tools and technologies and changes to the processes that the organization might consider. 8th, we act as a coordinator between your organization and third-party vendors as appropriate in order to relate the security tools as they are found in your environment, speaking with firewall vendors, web proxy vendors, and others that can help provide mitigating technologies and controls. And 9th, we utilize McAfee products also installed in your environment for both triage and mitigation of risks for both this incident and in general security terms. Now let's look at some use cases, tips, and tricks that your organization can leverage to improve your incident response capability. In this section, we'll look at the overall concept of 3 primary use cases based on experience performing incident response work for a variety of organizations worldwide. The first is the need to stop the ransomware encryption taking place. For example, data being encrypted to files ending in a particular extension. Servers and end-user systems are both affected, and the ransomware is spreading rapidly throughout the day. The second use case will be about stopping the lateral movement, often used by encoded hidden PowerShell, new Windows services being created, new scheduled tasks being created, or the use of PSExec being either leveraged or installed on systems. And the third use case touches upon the need to identify unprotected systems in the environment. These can be mixed endpoint environments, bring your own devices present on the network, or overlooked or forgotten systems with outdated endpoint protections. In this section, Kyle Wood will examine how we can leverage McAfee security products to accomplish remediating these 3 use cases, as well as some general tips and tricks. And now, over to you, Kyle.
Thanks, Mark. So while the IR team is agnostic to your security solutions, in that they will support you regardless of the platforms in your environment, I and my team come in when McAfee solutions are present in your environment, mainly to assist in the configuring based on best practices and experience in the field and during incident. We come in and set up initial configurations, which we will get into some of that in later slides. We then immediately gather threat events, queries, and then we build some custom dashboards, and this will allow us to create the rules and options and enable those options where applicable, for your specific incident and environment. During all of these efforts ongoing throughout the incident and near the end of our involvement, we usually like to review overall and provide general recommendations for continued improvements inside and outside of the specific event. So there are two major focus areas or high-level view that we have from a McAfee standpoint with myself and my team. The first would be initial configurations and settings based on our experience to incidents and other involvements that we have with the ACTS team. You know, it's not specific to your environment or your incident, but with a little bit of initial discovery and information gathering and the knowledge gained from other incidents, we can quickly get your security posture to a stronger state. The other is tailored to your environment and incident specifically. As the investigation moves forward and based on the forensics, IOCs, et cetera, that are found from the incident response team, we can custom configure rules and settings within any of the McAfee products you may have in your environment. So next we will go into some of the specific configurations, rules, and tuning to hopefully give you some tips to immediately improve your own security posture. We've actually seen each of these options be effective in their own respect in incident response engagements, so they are not just arbitrary. So in this slide, I would like to discuss some of the easy and common to configure options within endpoint security itself. The first would be password protection. In the policy itself, you can configure a password for uninstalling the product as well as accessing the GUI itself, right? So the first example would be if you have an administrative account that's been compromised. That account now, and based on how GPOs are typically configured, would now have the ability to uninstall the product. But with password protection enabled for that uninstall feature, then even an administrator would need that password to remove the product. The next would be the accessing of the GUI, right? So you can enable password protection individually for that as well. If you don't have that configured, then you're essentially giving the users the ability to modify the endpoint security policies and features on the system itself, which would allow the users to bypass the security posture for whatever they're trying to accomplish, right? The next would be self-protection. Look at self-protection as essentially protecting the McAfee processes themselves. An example of this would be if there is an unsigned or an untrusted by McAfee DLL certificate, right? The next would be AMSI, or anti-malware scanning interface. This is a Windows feature that is designed to work with security vendors in that it will monitor and track activity within the environment. The McAfee software itself integrates with this. We receive that information, we monitor as well, and then we can take actions on it to block it. Some examples would be the usage of PowerShell or running fileless-based malware or scripts. Okay, now I'd like to get into exploit prevention a little more, as this is a little more in depth, right? So if you are familiar with HIPS, or host intrusion prevention, this is the successor to the IPS portion of HIPS itself. And it is designed to, protect against vulnerabilities and known attacks. I recommend that you immediately review in your environment for the following rules. So these rules are what we generally enable immediately or in the initial onset of our involvement in an incident. The first would be the PowerShell rules themselves. So there are a lot of PowerShell rules in the policy, as you would see. The two most common ones that we initially enable would be the one for encoded command and the hidden switch. These do not generally provide a lot of false positives, and I've enabled these rules many times over. So I highly recommend that you check your environment to see if these are configured and enabled. The next would be the fileless rules, and The screenshot on the right will help you visualize the fileless rules that we're discussing, because you may look in there and see other rules associated to fileless, but these rules are the ones I would recommend to you to go back into your environment and review and ensure they're enabled and set to block. Again, fileless being, fileless-based malware or script-based malware, okay? The next would be the Mimikatz rules themselves. Maybe a little bit less important than the PowerShell and fileless rules, but again, in our experience, we see these be effective quite often. There are 4 Mimikatz rules you would notice in your policy itself, and don't also forget that there is a Mimikatz rule in your access protection policy that works in conjunction along with the rules that you'll find in exploit prevention. So let's take the previous slide one step further. So within exploit prevention, you have the ability to customly design your own rules. This feature has greatly improved, and I constantly use them in incidents to support specific IOCs that are found. Take a look at the images on the right. So the first is blocking the following. It's a process that the top part, match process, -v, ***. It's blocking that from initiating or creating the process command line in the syswal64 folder that you'll see below that. The next one is blocking of a specific process command line from being executed by PowerShell. Different than the rule above, we are using the description versus using a process or executable. This allows a broader coverage, meaning that any version of PowerShell attempting to run that command line string will be blocked. So I wanted to provide these examples so that you see how they are built, and you can take these back to your own environment and use those as examples to review your threat events and determine where and how the expert rules may be applicable. So now I want to dive a little bit more into some of our advanced suite products, right? So for reference, the previous slides have been covering our ENS, our Endpoint Security Suite. The first would be MAR, or Active Response. This can be used to supplement ENS in that we monitor activity and create triggers to kill actively running attacks, while exploit prevention is designed to block activity from being initiated, right? MAR triggers can be effective immediately throughout your entire environment, right? So when you create when you're monitoring the activity, you find something to create a trigger from, which you're essentially creating a rule specific for active response that then becomes effective in your entire environment immediately, okay? As some of you probably know and have heard, this is one of our EDR solutions. It is the predecessor, or rather MVision Endpoint Detection and Response, or MVision EDR, is a successor to MAR itself. So I just want to differentiate the two products there. MAR is an EDR solution and the predecessor. MVision EDR is EDR and the successor to MAR. Now for TIE can be used, for example, to block hash value, just like how MAR is effective immediately. Anything that you implement within TIE would be effective immediately in your entire enterprise as well, right? So for example, you could set a block, you can block a hash value throughout your entire enterprise using an enterprise reputation by simply setting the hash to known malicious. And based on whatever your configuration is under the ATP policy itself. So under ATP, you'll see the first option, for example, by default, would be a balanced mode and contain files that are set to might be malicious. Okay, so the bottom option would be to block files that are known malicious. So if you set a hash value to known malicious, then based on policy, we're going to block it, and that'll happen out throughout your entire environment. So another example is during incidents, a lot of times the incident response team would generate through their forensics investigation a list of hash IOCs. So if I have a large list of those, I can import those into TIE and immediately set the reputation all at once. Now the next part is ENS ATP, or Endpoint Security Advanced Threat Protection, which is simply another part of the ENS product itself. within EPO, you'll find the ATP policy under all of the ENS policies. Okay? So let's discuss the two components of ATP. The first would be Real Protect. This is designed to look at files, if you will, pre and post execution. Another way to put that is does this file look bad, and is this file acting bad, right? So sort of like based on heuristics and that sort of thing. The next would be DAC, or Dynamic Application Containment. This is what I was talking about when I was discussing TIE. It uses a list of rules in settings for the reputation threshold to contain files, whether it's set to unknown or might be malicious. Might be malicious is the default setting for balance. As your environment becomes more mature with the product, oftentimes we recommend setting that to unknown. And this allows, basically, this will help you. What DAC does is it takes that file based on your settings, it contains it, runs it against a list of rules, and also references the reputation of the hash itself, right, to determine what action is going to be taken. So back over to you, Mark.
Thanks, Kyle. Now let's talk a bit more about how you can leverage the entire McAfee ecosystem. In addition to the McAfee Advanced Cyber Threat Services Incident Response Team, working closely with Kyle's Solution Services product teams during an incident lifecycle, there are many other groups within McAfee that support the incident response process and the teams within your organization. The first, of course, is McAfee Act's own incident response experts. These execute IR security objectives, create remediation plans, perform forensic analysis, help to eradicate the incident, and perform reporting on that incident, the coordinating digital forensics and incident response activities with other groups, both within McAfee and within the organization. The second team, part of the McAfee ecosystem, is McAfee Labs. McAfee Labs can provide extra DATs, or additional dynamic content created specifically to the incident and the indicators of compromise present during the incident response. They also can perform analysis of malware samples, as well as more detailed reverse engineering of those samples. And the Advanced Programs Group can also provide adversary intelligence in the case of nation-state threat actors or other large-scale threat actors present in the global information security community. The third are McAfee consultants. These are solution services experts that support the incident response team, leveraging McAfee solutions that are available within the environment, help to monitor threats, and to drive configuration and policy updates. The fourth is the McAfee engineering team. McAfee engineering serves as the internal advocate for the client during incident response. They coordinate with solution consultants, and they help to manage patches and DATs and other content available for the endpoint protections. Fifth is the McAfee support engineers. These serve as senior support engineers for technical issues, especially in the case of incident response. They can provide a deep technical expertise in McAfee technologies, as well as their own viewpoint of general malware and incident response cases. McAfee support engineers also help to engage product engineering on the back end in case any remediation is necessary within the products themselves. And the sixth, and also important, team is the McAfee account team. These help engage with the customer, to provide oversight to the overall engagement, and also to engage executives to ensure that everybody is informed and up to date as to the course of the incident and what is happening. Based on the McAfee Act and McAfee Solution Services joint work on multiple incidents, we've devised a common set of remediation recommendations that organizations should keep in mind in the event of an incident. An easy way to help prevent incidents is also to ensure proper scanning processes and policies are in place. Having frequent, regularly scheduled scans with up-to-date content and definitions can help reduce the threat of an incident taking place to begin with. Having proper implementation and configuration of the tools is very important to help reduce them and mitigate the threats that are out there. By properly configuring tools, organizations can take maximum advantage of new technologies, such as those Kyle discussed previously, and to help then reduce the risk. Further, it's important to ensure that the team members have relevant training. As much as we've discussed technology, people and processes are also key, and training people to have a better understanding of incident response, malware, and general information security topics, as well as McAfee products and technologies, can further improve the environment and help reduce the risk. Identifying threats to assets. A very key component to many incidents that we experience involves lack of asset management and understanding what assets are in the environment, what their criticality is, and thus making it difficult to assess what things should be focused on first. By identifying the threats to assets in advance, you can better prepare for an incident and be better positioned to react to it. And lastly, there are proactive programs that McAfee Advanced Cyber Threat Services can provide to help further reduce the risk of incidents occurring in the first place. These can include contextual threat intelligence services, where we provide a report periodically to the client on threats that exist for that vertical or industry in which the client operates, and threats that may be targeting specifically to that organization. We provide threat hunting services, such as our threat hunting assessment service, which allows us to proactively go into an environment and help teach you, the client, how to hunt for threats as opposed to the reactive threats that are received from monitoring and alerting systems in the environment. We can also help with incident response planning, developing the incident response plan and help to perform dry run or tabletop exercises to test that plan go a long way towards making sure that you're prepared for the incident without having to invent and discover problems that it may occur during the incident itself. And lastly, we can help assess with cybersecurity maturity assessment. These give a broader understanding of the current processes, procedures, policies, skill sets of the people, and the technologies in place and how well they are currently leveraged, providing then a list of recommendations to help further improve the overall posture of the organization from an information security standpoint. Now let's take what we've discussed so far and apply it to a customer case study based on an incident that McAfee Advanced Cyber Threat Services assisted with earlier this year. Earlier this year, McAfee Advanced Cyber Threat Incident Response team responded to an incident with a government client of ours. This client had a mixture of both cloud and on-premise infrastructure with over 30,000 endpoints. There were multiple McAfee products involved in the environment in addition to a variety of other information security technologies. The McAfee products included McAfee ePolicy Orchestrator, McAfee Endpoint Protections through the ENS suite, TIE, the McAfee Threat Intelligence Exchange, and McAfee's Intrusion Detection and Prevention System, NSP, as well as McAfee Cloud Technologies. There were multiple other security vendors also present in the environment. This incident began with an Emotet and Dridex malware infection. The infection began through a phishing email campaign that enticed users to click on a link that downloaded additional malicious payload. The incident response team began with the responding to and assessing of the incident. The incident response team was on site in less than 24 hours, and they began triage with multiple other incident response teams present. It was quickly determined by the incident response team that PowerShell tools such as PowerShell Empire and Cobalt Strike were being leveraged for lateral movement, remote command and control, and reconnaissance and information gathering efforts. Working with the Solution Services team under Kyle, we worked to quickly implement changes to contain the outbreak, putting protections in place to block the offending PowerShell commands to prevent that lateral movement, as well as to continue the assessment of other countermeasure effectiveness through changes to the McAfee EPO configuration. The team moved on to preserving and analyzing systems, performing detailed forensic analysis of multiple endpoint systems and servers to better understand the particular malware threat being examined, as well as how the adversary was performing lateral movement, what kinds of reconnaissance the adversary was performing, and any kind of data exfiltration that might be taking place. Leveraging the McAfee Advanced Threat Research team and other teams within McAfee and putting together the full advantage of the McAfee ecosystem, we were able to further improve detection and response capabilities and achieve containment within a day or two. We then began to eradicate in the remediation phase, and that was achieved within days of the initial incident response. McAfee further recommended the McAfee EPO Health Watch service as a follow-up recommendation to improve their configuration and posture, and McAfee provided a detailed list of 30, 60, and 90-day recommendations for the organization to act upon. So now let's look in a little bit more depth into the services that McAfee can provide for incident response. McAfee Advanced Cyber Threat Services can help you be more confident and prepared when an incident occurs through multiple incident response services. We can help you respond more effectively to a security breach. The need of a first responder to be able to aid in quickly identifying and remediating an attack, or a trusted partner to deliver independent strategic security guidance, you can rely on McAfee to contain and mitigate the problem. We also can help reduce your business disruptions. Our experienced IR professionals can identify network and application vulnerabilities, provide actionable threat intelligence, and design a strong security program and enforceable security policies. And McAfee Acts can maximize the value of your company. With the thoroughness of our process, our product agnostic experts help you maximize and leverage the technology that you already own while helping strengthen your emergency response capabilities, leading to an overall improved security posture. Let's look at two of McAfee Advanced Cyber Threat Services incident response services in a little bit more detail. McAfee's Advanced Cyber Threat Services can provide an IR readiness assessment. This is a proactive step that helps you prepare for an incident within your environment. It includes 40 hours of consultative services, presentation and discussion of the program and the expected outcome, followed by interviews with the key role players and stakeholders within your organization. We'll review your current incident response plan, if any, and other information security technologies and policies. We'll look to understand the product integration within your overall technology set and with that respect to the incident response plan. And we'll provide a report that outlines our various findings and recommendations. We can provide a new or a revised incident response plan as one of the outcomes. We also can provide for emergency incident response hours. This is a reactive step which provides direct access to incident responders, allowing you to respond, investigate, remediate, and recover from a cyber attack. This can include 160 hours of services, providing immediate triage of reported cyber attack on a 24/7 by 365 global support hotline. We provide direct access to security experts within 1 hour of a response service level goal. McAfee products can be used to contain and mitigate the threat. We can also implement an immediate dispatch of security experts if necessary. We provide ongoing remediation assistance throughout the incident. We provide daily status reports and written investigative vulnerability findings. And we provide a final report containing the details of the incident response engagement, including key configuration changes and other recommendations for both McAfee and non-McAfee products and technologies, as well as processes and procedures within the organization. McAfee Advanced Cyber Threat Services can provide a flexible variety of incident response retainer options, accommodating organizations of all sizes. We can provide custom retainer option, which can be 160 hours prepaid, but it's available in less hours if desired. We also have 3 tiers of retainer levels, from Tier 0, with no dedicated hours and a slower response time, to Tier 2, which includes a set amount of initial hours available on a time and material basis, with a response time remotely of 1 hour and an on-site response time of 24 hours. A custom retainer option is also available that can be negotiated with sales teams. In each of these, the terms and conditions are set in advance, and all the necessary legal and financial paperwork is in place. The pre-negotiated statement of work enables our teams to respond quickly to the incident and not have to worry about any other background paperwork or red tape. These retainer hours are all available to be applied to other McAfee consulting services at McAfee's discretion. One option, for example, may be having Kyle's team provide their week-long expert rules course, training your team on how to better apply expert rules within the McAfee endpoint technologies. Let's now summarize what we've discussed today. In summarizing what we've discussed in today's webinar, McAfee experts provide cross-disciplinary teamwork throughout the incident response lifecycle. Our teams provide consultative advisory information security services to help customers achieve success in all stages of the security lifecycle. Our robust portfolio ensures a faster incident response recovery time, an improved security posture, the agility to respond better to the threat landscape, which is ever-changing, and improvements to the people, processes, and technology within your organization. Our incident response retainers can provide peace of mind that help is available when an incident occurs. We've got your back. We hope that you found today's webinar informative and that it provided you some tips, tricks, and other recommendations that you can take back to your own organization to immediately begin improving your security posture. If you do need to reach out to McAfee Advanced Cyber Threat Services for assistance, if you'd like to discuss the different service offerings that we can provide, we're here for you. If you do have an incident, you can reach us at hacked911@mcafee.com.
We have expanded our customer self-service capabilities, including but not limited to our McAfee Enterprise Support app for Android and iOS, new product support pages, the support community, McAfee Support YouTube channel, and social media help needs on Facebook and Twitter. The EPO Support Center plugin is available free of charge to download within your EPO application. You can learn more about the EPO Support Center on the McAfee Support YouTube channel and on support.mcafee.com.
I think that brings us to the conclusion today. I want to thank everyone for joining today's webinar.